Hello, everybody. Thanks for checking out this Sunday live show. So today I'm going to talk about a few different things going on. I was really very interested in some of the concepts that Pat Martino shared in some of his books and some of his talks and things. And as you probably know, he passed away, I think, almost 2 weeks ago. And but he has, of course, quite a legacy to share through his playing and also teaching. He had quite a few videos out and books and things. So one thing that I find really interesting is this idea of the it's weird. Looks like the YouTube live just went live, I think. Well, I'm sorry about that, but so some things I've been talking about here. Pretty sure I hit the live button, but I don't know. Some of the symmetrical shapes. I think I talked about that a little bit last week. Maybe we'll start with some of these augmented shapes. So if we play augmented, divide the octave up evenly by 3. So you can kind of go through and change one of those notes, come up with a different type of triad. So I think we talked a little bit about that last time. So that's something you kind of explore. It's really, really sort of interesting, to think about. Take a note, one of the 3 notes, let's say you have 3 notes, and take one of the notes and take it down a half step. So let's go back to the augmented triad. Take one of the notes and so we went down, so we could head up. We get a minor triad. So We take that perspective of the arpeggio, and or you could take the perspective of your take the approach of using a chord, which I think is what we did last time. So we get some other kind of cool things too by looking at four notes that are minor third apart. And what we can do there. So these are really closely related to dominant sevenths. So notice that along came Betty. There's part there. We have F7, but in the melody we have this diminished arpeggio. Let me see if I can bring up the tune here and talk about that part here a little bit. Right, so we have F7, and then the melody goes like this. A little chromatic passage, and then it's going to get to this flat third of the A minor 7. But you can see get a diminished seventh kind of arpeggio, you might say. So what happens there is you get flat 7, flat 9, 3, 5, and then back to the flat 7. So there's an example, right kind of in the melody, sort of the power of that. So you could take this as kind of a study and say, okay, well, I'll play maybe even from F7, play one octave arpeggio on F7, then play from G flat, or more like he's doing in the melody anyway, from the flat 7. Or you could practice it, the contrast of F7 from the so that would be third inversion. And just kind of compare all that. So I apologize about the late start. I know I hit start live stream right at 3, and then here on YouTube, and came back to the page and was still. I'm glad I checked. And it said it was just starting to go live. So there's a location, especially on dominant chords, where we could play diminished 7, and then you can think about anything that's a minor third away, F7, D7, and think about that same diminished 7th arpeggio. I'll switch my screen again and apply it to the D7. same thing with D7. So here you might try first inversion. And then think about, this B7 here. That's kind of a cool thing about it. So let's say A flat 7 or G sharp 7. So what if we start on the 5th? So notice on each one of these, I'm just changing, one note. So it's really kind of a cool thing, if you even, if you take a look at the dominant sevenths, so that's a real practical way to use those diminished sevenths, even outside of a diminished 7 chord. So of course, if you're playing this chord, A diminished 7. Same concept, C7, or C diminished 7 rather. E flat. G flat. So a lot of interesting applications, and then half diminished kinds of chords. So here's sort of the concept. So if you remember, we had this E flat diminished. We're kind of taking that few notes of that melody from Along Came Betty, and just kind of using that source material, I guess. So let's say we, instead of going down a half step, we go up a half step, right? So then we play from there. So we get A half diminished and second version. So you can go through that whole, same process on these other C half diminished, E flat half diminished, G flat half diminished there. Oh, I should go up to here. So it's this note versus this note, right? One thing that's kind of interesting about that too is that let's say you're working through some changes from this tune, and you have A flat or A half diminished going to the D7 flat 9. So that's a chord change that comes up a lot in other tunes too. But at some point in the tune, we play from there to there. So what if you say, okay, we play the half diminished arpeggio, and then drop this note. So you get A fully diminished, let's say you decide to play that over that, so you get the nice voice leading of that chord change. See, so we got half diminished to diminished, and then we could get a resolution there to that. So that's a pretty interesting kind of phenomenon there. All right, so I'll talk a little bit about. So we had an Alone Together, a couple of Alone Together videos, and so I released a video later this week. I think it was about Wednesday or Thursday, and the video has been doing really great. So I think folks are getting a lot of good use out of that. So that's really really cool to see, and I've been getting a good amount of positive feedback on the play along type videos. So that seems to be doing pretty well as well. Having it start out slow and having folks kind of move gradually. So maybe I'll improvise a little bit with on Along Came Betty. So actually that's how I started out the show today, but I think I got cut off a little bit, so I'll play around with that a little bit. This week, this past week we looked at a um, Jimmy Rainey solo, or I looked at a Jimmy Rainey solo and um, did some analysis on that and did some talks and the with students and some of the online classes that I'm doing, and that was really instructive, really interesting. It's really great to transcribe and to analyze transcriptions um, as part of your playing, and it kind of can help give you a little extra confidence in what you're doing. So if you find a line that maybe is similar to something that you've done, um, or if you say, "Oh, I've chosen that type of note before on that particular chord," and then the kind of the other way around is just saying, "Okay, well, there's um, such and such player is doing this on this particular change. Let me see if I can work that in to my playing as well." So that's another kind of approach that you can take as well. So I found a bit of a transcription on Pep Martino's playing. So I think I'm going to talk about that a little bit in this coming week as well. So a couple changes in this tune, Along Came Betty, and I've done some videos on this, I think. So a couple changes to maybe think about. To think about, let's see, F major 7 going to A7. So that's a little bit of a chord change to try to get familiar with. So what I like to do is compare and contrast two particular chords, and think about it as a chord change. So I might go 4 notes and play between the two. So I might think, okay, F, A7, F, A7, F, A7, and just kind of get it going back and forth. And when you're on the instrument, think about the proximity of one chord to the next. So, like here, you might say, okay, well, if I play F and I play up to that tone, maybe my next tone will be C sharp. So try to create a line out of it. Or and then maybe try to connect it to the next thing. But and then maybe add some other rhythms to it or change the notes around. So And there's an opportunity to work on the augmented triad. So A augmented. And also, maybe even just other chords too. When it comes to the dominant sevenths, there's really a lot to explore there. Let's say let's say we take 4 chords. I think one chord I played a little earlier was on the G7. What is that? That's an E major triad. And you compare that with some diminished things too. So let's say you had this sort of sound in mind over G. Add this tone, so you get this sort of major triad. Let's check all that out. So you have the E major on that. So kind of really cool symmetries and things with those, kind of tying this back into those dominant sevens and things. So let's say we're thinking about the G7. So we can kind of use the same shape. So one thing I recommend doing is trying try to identify how each tone relates to a bass note. And then maybe making some alterations to it and everything. So playing around there a little bit with Alone Together, and as I was going through, I was kind of see if we could find some opportunities to work in some of those um, diminished kinds of things. So I think at some point it got to G minor, and see if played G diminished, and then maybe try to change one of the other tones, make it a little closer to G minor, or let's say G minor 6 there for a moment. So we're kind of comparing, G diminished, G minor 6, G minor 7. I think on the first chorus, I played kind of you might call it kind of I want to use the word wacky, but it's kind of cool though. But play something like that, so you get like a sharp 9, major. The chord goes major, so but otherwise, it's the tune is in D minor, so that's kind of a cool sound. You can work that into kind of a Lydian sort of sound. Um, that's kind of a cool thing. Now, another kind of neat thing that happens sometimes on some changes, not this particular change, but might think of a chain of tune like Corcovado. I think there's a moment where it kind of goes from a F diminished to F major 7. So that's something where, having practiced something like this, comparing a lot of these chords is really um, uh, pretty helpful. And so researching the live stream from last week, and just doing a little extra, thinking about Pat Martino and just kind of some of the concepts that I've heard from him, read from him. Um, it seems a little, you might think, maybe too theoretical, or I don't know. I don't think it is, but I think some folks might have that perspective. I don't know, but there's a lot of practical application to thinking about these symmetrical kinds of shapes, whether it's an augmented triad or the diminished 7 arpeggio. When you think about it as relating, especially to dominant sevenths, and sort of gives you a um, little movement or segue into keys that are not so closely related. Um, if you take a look at tune, one of the viewers last week was asking me about giant steps. So you take a look at the key centers of that. Those tones they form an augmented triad. right? And then the diminished, that kind of thing. Anything that goes, dominant seventh, like a D7 flat 9 to G minor or whatever it happens to be. So that is great use of that diminished 7. And then you can combine the two. And then you get sort of this pentatonic scale. So it's like the dominant pentatonic, but it's has a lowered 9. So that's pretty cool. And then just another thing about this tune, a lot of the melody falls on a lot of melody notes from this tune, Along Came Betty, fall on the 9. So that's another kind of interesting thing. So this is a B flat minor 7. We get the 9 up here. B minor 7. Get the 9 up there. So that's another thing that you could tie this all into, is the idea of maybe taking some of those and maybe taking the arpeggio of B flat minor and see if you can incorporate the 9. And you get sort of a pentatonic scale in a way. It's not like the major pentatonic or the minor pentatonic, so it's a little bit different. And we have some half steps, and so, but it does have got that open feeling to it. Also, major 10 chords. I could do something kind of similar there. Think about the A major 9. So then you can relate that and say, well, how is that different from a major pentatonic, which also has the 9, right? So it's kind of like having the 7 rather than the 6. So that's kind of a cool relationship there. And then similarly, well, B minor, we had B minor earlier. So that's another spot where you might work that out. So they might say, okay, let me compare that to the minor pentatonic, which I think folks know pretty well. So it's kind of like we're playing the 9 rather than the 11. Right? So those are some, as far as just the content of what you're doing, that can be kind of a cool approach, or neat thing to kind of check out. All right, everybody. A little bit of a quiet day, it looks like today. Hope everything's okay with the stream. Just to be all right, but All right, so I'm gonna hang out here for probably 5 minutes or so, and let me know if you have any questions, any tunes you're working on. Another kind of cool thing I was thinking about sharing, and I'm not sure how this is gonna work out auditory wise, but so I've been playing around with some bass notes. Um, Playing around with those. So I don't know if you can hear that bass note coming through here, but I'll turn it up a little bit. So that's a little something I'm playing around with a little bit this morning. So that's with the synth sort of thing. So I was playing around with the preset and adjusting preset a little bit. I'll try and turn off the magnetic pickup for a second. So let me play around with that for a second. Show you in case folks are interested. So let's see if I can. So this is going to be all magnetic pickup. See if I can play around with this a little bit. It has a lot of potential. You know, kind of running some. I think it has a good amount of like potential to um, do some interesting things. So I think that's kind of cool. Bring back the magnetic pickup there. All right. Well, I hope everybody's having fun with guitar this week and all that, and some of the tunes and things. So leave a comment if you're interested in any particular tunes, or let me know what you're working on. And then Also, if you're really into kind of digging in deeper into some of these things, check out the member area. There's a link in the description below for that. And got a pretty good amount of material coming out per week. I need to update the welcome video on that. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, and this will be available for replay. Hope you enjoy the talk today. Hopefully it helped you out with your tips and maybe some things that might inspire some practice. It's kind of the main thing about this channel is about um, getting right into it and practicing and also having fun. All right, everybody. I will see you all in the next one.